Okay, we'll let everyone filter in and ready to get started. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on navigating the opportunity of multi-state compliance. My name is Kevin Miner. I'm an account executive here at Harbor Compliance, and I'll be guiding you through today's session. Before we dive in, a few housekeeping items. The webinar is being recorded, and you'll receive a copy afterward. Today's presentation is also eligible for continuing education through Earmark. I'll go over how to get your CE credit at the end of the presentation. And we'll be here for approximately 45 minutes today. And there will be time for a short question and answer session at the end. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. A little bit about Harbor Compliance. Harbor Compliance is a nationwide provider of registered agent, business registration, licensing, services, and software. We also provide extensive nonprofit formation and fundraising compliance solutions to nonprofit organizations through Labyrinth, which is our nonprofit brand. One thing that is important is that compliance is not just a box to check, it's a fundamental requirement. Organizations must follow state and federal regulations to operate. The real challenge is deciding how to meet these requirements in the most effective and efficient way. Here is what we will be covering today. First, we'll discuss what it takes to form a new business and the necessary steps to take as your business grows. Next, we'll discuss the ongoing requirements to keep your business in good standing. Finally, we'll share why outsourcing compliance can free up critical resources and support entity growth. So let's dig in to the required steps when forming a new entity. When forming a new business, one of the first steps is choosing the right entity type. An LLC or limited liability company is very popular with small businesses because it offers liability protection with a simple structure and pass-through taxation. A C corporation is the classic choice for companies planning to raise significant outside investment or even go public, though it does involve corporate taxation. And an S corporation provides pass-through taxation and avoids double taxation, but it comes with restrictions, such as a cap on the number of shareholders and ownership limited to U.S. individuals. For organizations serving the public good, a nonprofit corporation is oftentimes the right fit. These entities can apply for tax-exempt status with the IRS. Finally, professional entities like professional corporations or PLLCs are reserved for licensed professions such as attorneys, doctors, and architects, and offer liability protection while meeting state licensing rules. Keep in mind, this is general information only. Each type of entity comes with unique legal and tax considerations, so it's important to consult with qualified advisors before making a decision. When choosing where to form a new entity, there are several options to consider. For example, Delaware is popular with startups because of its investor-friendly corporate law and specialized court of chancery. Nevada stands out for its lack of state corporate income tax and strong privacy protections. Texas offers a large and growing economy with a strong workforce, making it attractive for companies planning to hire locally. Finally, for many business owners, forming in their home state is often the most practical choice since it avoids additional costs of foreign qualification and directly matches where the business is already operating. These examples are for general education purposes only. Each business has unique needs, so it's important to consult with qualified legal or tax professionals before making a decision. Every business entity is required to maintain a registered agent in the state where it is formed and in any state where it is qualified to do business. The registered agent's job is to receive official documents like lawsuits and state notices. You can technically appoint yourself as an employee, but that comes with risks. The agent must be available at the listed address during all business hours. Missing delivery could result in penalties or even default judgments. There are also privacy considerations. The registered agent's address is public record, so many owners prefer to use a service provider rather than their home or office address. Using a commercial registered agent service ensures reliability and continuity. Finally, if you're planning to operate in multiple states, a commercial registered agent service like Harbor Compliance can simplify operations by providing consistent coverage across all 50 states. This saves time, reduces complexity, and ensures you never miss a critical document. Topic two, as your business grows, you may need to operate in multiple states. Foreign qualification is required when you're considered to be doing business in another state. This often includes having an office, having employees, or entering into contracts in that jurisdiction. One of the biggest surprises for new business owners is how much complexity varies from state to state. Filing timelines, for example, can range from just a few days in Delaware to several weeks in states like California or New York. This affects how soon your company can officially operate. Filing fees also differ wildly. Some states charge less than $100, while others charge several hundred, which can add up quickly if you're forming in multiple states. Beyond the basics, some states have additional requirements. For example, a few require general business licenses, initial report filings, or even the publication of formation notices in a local newspaper. Tax requirements also vary. For example, Texas has a franchise tax, while Nevada doesn't levy a corporate income tax at all. Finally, don't forget that simply having employees in another state can trigger additional filings, such as registering with the Secretary of State and setting up payroll tax accounts. Doing business across state lines can also trigger not only foreign qualification, but also sales tax registrations. This is why businesses expanding across state lines need to plan ahead and anticipate these differences. The South Dakota versus Wayfair Inc. decision was a game changer for sales tax obligations. While it may not have received as much attention as it might have under normal circumstances, given its timing shortly before the COVID-19 pandemic, its impact has been profound. That said, ignorance of this decision isn't a defense, and enforcement is real. Businesses now face obligations in states where they may have no physical presence, requiring proactive attention to avoid penalties. So now we're going to do a quick check. I'm going to ask, how would you describe your sales tax registration status? Are you fully registered everywhere you need to be, still figuring things out, or not sure where to start? If you can drop a quick answer in the chat, we'd love to hear where you're at. So feel free to send a quick message if you're able. Appreciate the responses, and now we will move forward with the presentation. Let's see. Okay, I think I have the webinar chat on. I think it was off initially. So now let's talk about the impact of remote work on regulatory requirements. As many organizations shift to long-term or permanent remote work arrangements, their regulatory footprint is expanding. While some companies are returning to in-person operations, remote work is here to stay for many. This means businesses must now register to operate in additional states where their employees are located. They must now manage tax obligations and ensure that they have the right licenses in place. Just like in your home state, your business now has ongoing obligations in every additional state where it's operating. These include maintaining a registered agent, filing annual reports, paying franchise taxes, and renewing business licenses. For registered agent requirements, every state where you do business requires that you designate a current registered agent to receive legal notices and service of process. If the agent's information changes, that must be updated with the state. Using a single service provider like Harbor Compliance can greatly simplify this process by consolidating all of your registered agent needs into one annual invoice. Then there's the annual report. Nearly every state requires entities to file some form of annual or periodic report. Because deadlines and filing schedules vary by state, some are annual, some are every other year. Multi-state businesses must stay on top of filings throughout the year. Many states also impose a franchise tax to maintain corporate good standing. States like California, New York, and Texas are well known for these requirements. These filings are separate from income tax and must be tracked and paid on time. On top of that, most business licenses must be renewed to remain valid. These renewals can be annual, biennial, or follow another timeline altogether. Regardless of the schedule, organizations need a reliable system to track deadlines and ensure updates are filed on time. Managing all of this across states isn't a one-time task. It's ongoing and dynamic. Requirements change often. Statutes, forms, agency websites, and even which agencies handle which tasks. If your organization handles its own state registrations, chances are you'll eventually run into one of these changes, which could result in rejected filings, lost time, and added administrative work. That's why outsourcing these tasks to a trusted provider that stays on top of regulatory changes can be a smart and efficient solution. And finally, don't forget your organization is evolving too. Internal changes often trigger registration updates. Whether you're creating a new entity, undergoing a merger, rebranding, appointing new leadership, or expanding into a new state, each change requires updates across Secretary of State records, tax departments, and licensing agencies. That's why it's so important to have a process or partner in place to handle multi-state regulatory requirements as your organization grows and changes. Now, for a poll question, and we will be asking how many of you have direct experience with this type of out-of-state registration? We're going to launch it here. All right, so how are you managing your registrations and licenses across multiple states? You give a few minutes to for everybody to be able to answer. And if everybody can confirm, I saw a few chat messages come in. It was shut off at the beginning. Um, so if anybody can confirm that just by typing something in the chat to make sure that it's working. Great. So it looks like there's a good mix. About 40%, however, are managing these requirements themselves or in-house. 25% are using spreadsheets to track everything. 3 18% have an employee that manages them. Great. Appreciate everybody providing those answers. We'll move forward with the presentation. So let's take a look at a routine process for a multi-state business. Hiring an employee in a new jurisdiction for the first time is what we'll look at in this example. Hiring a new employee might sound straightforward, but ensuring that they can be paid requires opening payroll tax accounts within their jurisdiction. This process oftentimes lands on HR, but it's really a tax compliance task. HR teams find themselves in the middle, coordinating with payroll providers, accounting and finance, and sometimes external accounting firms. Relying on a compliance partner like Harbor Compliance with experience opening payroll tax accounts in every state can make this process far smoother. First-hand knowledge of the process allows them to navigate jurisdiction-specific requirements, minimize delays, and significantly reduce the risk of mistakes. The right partner will handle the heavy lifting, so all your team needs to do is provide the new account numbers to your payroll provider. With a proactive compliance management approach, you can eliminate confusion, streamline this process, and reduce friction to keep the hiring process moving smoothly. A quick question for everyone. Have you set up payroll in a new jurisdiction for the first time in the last 12 months? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. We'd love to see where everyone stands on this. Okay, there, I think the chat has been fixed. At least I can see your messages. Thank you, everybody that answered, and we'll move forward. Payroll tax registration doesn't exist in isolation. It often requires foreign qualification, which means registering your business with the new state's Secretary of State. This process allows your business to legally operate in another state. It also involves appointing a registered agent, which we've discussed, to handle official communications and compliance documentation within that state. Using a nationwide registered agent provider can simplify this process significantly. Harbor Compliance can serve as your registered agent across all states and handle entity filing seamlessly. While routine foreign qualification can still add complexity and ongoing obligations like annual report filings, which we can also offload for you. And since we have experience with these processes in every single state, it allows you to take a proactive approach and anticipate these needs up front. This helps you avoid scrambling between human resources, accounting, and legal teams, and ensures requirements are met without disrupting your day-to-day business. When foreign qualification is completed, businesses often discover that obtaining licenses is the next hurdle. Whether you're in a regulated industry or not, many states require general business licenses for all entities. Legal teams, sometimes with the help from outside counsel, are typically involved in this process, but it's another layer of complexity on top of everything they have to do on a day-to-day basis. With a proactive compliance partner like Harbor Compliance that can help you see these challenges coming in advance, you can integrate licensing into your workflow, saving time and reducing stress. Finally, once tax accounts, entity registrations, and licenses are sorted out, corporate records must be maintained and updated. This step often requires legal and executive involvement, as they are the teams typically responsible for managing these organizational records. You might be wondering how hiring an employee could trigger updates to your corporate records. Under the Corporate Transparency Act, businesses must keep their corporate details up to date with FinCEN through BOI or Beneficial Ownership Information Reporting. If a business foreign qualifies in a new state and their name is unavailable, they may need to use a forced assumed name. While this doesn't happen every time, such naming changes can require an updated BOI report. Failing to report these changes promptly can result in costly penalties. In summary, even basic operations like hiring an employee in a new jurisdiction can quickly snowball and require inputs from across the business. By partnering with the right compliance vendor that can assist you across entity, records, licensing, and tax, you stay ahead of these requirements, reduce stress, and avoid last minute surprises. With the rise of remote work, expanded sales tax obligations, and consolidation activity, it's clear that nearly every organization operates across state lines today. Managing regulatory complexity has become a universal challenge that requires a strategic approach. It also means fewer and fewer businesses are able to achieve and maintain comprehensive compliance, which means that those that do are truly differentiated versus the competition. Now, one more poll question for you. And the question is, what is your status with relation to registering out of state? Have you ever registered out of state? Are you going to be doing so again soon? Next 6 months? What does that process look like for everyone? Well, so far, actually every single response is that you'll likely need to register in a new state in the next 6 months, still at 100%. Great. Well, every single person in the chat uh, will need to register in the next 6 months. Thank you for answering that question. We'll move forward. So topic 3, the renewals and ongoing requirements. Along with annual reports, many states require renewal for licenses, permits, and registered agent services. Staying on top of these requirements ensures your entity remains in good standing and avoids penalties. Next, we'll discuss the renewal processes and ongoing requirements for your business to remain in good standing. Annual reports are one of the most consistent ongoing obligations for business entities. Depending on the state, they're due every year or every other year. These filings update basic business information like address, registered agent, and officer or ownership details. They also require filing fees which vary widely and deadlines that differ by state. Some tie to your anniversary date, others use a set calendar date, but staying on top of these annual reports is crucial because missing one can mean late fees, a loss of good standing, or even administrative dissolution. Forming your entity is just the first step. In many cases, you'll also need business licenses and permits. General business licenses are common at both the state and local level, while certain professions like engineers, contractors, and healthcare providers require specialized licensing. And don't overlook sales tax permits. Even if you don't have a physical presence, many states' economic nexus laws can still require registration. On top of that, cities and counties may require zoning permits or inspections depending on your operations. Most licenses renew annually. Missing a renewal can result in penalties or even prevent your business from operating until reinstated, which makes careful tracking essential. While higher interest rates have slowed borrowing for some, mergers and acquisitions remain a dominant growth strategy for many sectors, and compliance plays a critical role in this process. Organizations that are in good standing have a significant advantage. They can acquire or be acquired without delays or complications. But compliance considerations don't stop there. Post deal steps like deciding which entities will survive, winding down subsumed entities, and managing the licenses and tax registrations are crucial for a smooth transition and sustained long term success. Amendments are the formal way to update your entity's information with the state. Common examples include changing your business name, which also requires updates with the IRS, your bank, and licensing agencies. Address changes, especially for your registered agent, are also critical to ensure you receive state notices and legal documents. Changes in ownership or management often require prompt updates so state records remain accurate. If your business purpose changes, for instance, expanding from consulting to also selling products, some states or industries may require new licenses or permits. Finally, larger changes like mergers or converting from an LLC to a corporation must be documented with amendment filings. These updates keep your business records aligned with reality, which protects your good standing and avoids conflicts with regulators or business partners. Next, let's discuss the major macroeconomic trends driving regulatory complexity. Compliance is non-negotiable. Organizations must follow law and regulations or risk penalties. Losing their right to operate and damaging their reputation are potential penalties associated with this. Effective compliance starts with understanding and managing four key areas: entity registration, record keeping, licensing, and tax obligations. Let's begin with business registration. This is usually the first step when entering a new state, most commonly as a foreign qualification, but in some states it may involve forming an entirely new legal entity depending on the organization structure and goals. Registration occurs with the Secretary of State's office and grants the business legal permission to operate in that jurisdiction. It typically also reserves the entity's name in the state and grants access to the court system to bring or defend lawsuits. As part of this process, the business must designate a registered agent. This individual or company is responsible for receiving service of process and other time-sensitive legal documents. While many organizations appoint registered agents on an as-needed basis, this can lead to a patchwork of providers, increasing administrative complexity, costs, and risk of miscommunications. A better approach is to consolidate your registered agent representation with a single provider who meets the requirements across all jurisdictions. Providers like Harbor Compliance are happy to help streamline this process for you. Next is tax registrations. This involves opening the appropriate tax accounts needed to file returns and pay taxes. For employers, this often means withholding and unemployment tax accounts, while sellers may need sales tax permits. Tax registration becomes necessary when a business establishes nexus, a sufficient physical or economic connection to a state. What's important to remember is that registering with departments of revenue and labor is not automatic. It requires intentional actions by the firm. And because tax forms can become complex, it's best to be proactive. Register before conducting taxable activities like hiring an employee or completing sales. Finally, there's business licensing. Obtaining the proper licenses allows an organization to operate legally in a specific location or industry. Licenses may be required at the state or local level and can apply to both the business and its individual employees. With over 150,000 licensing authorities across the United States, there's no universal process for obtaining a license. That's why organizations must take a proactive approach. Identify what's required, apply early, and work with legal advisors or service providers as needed. Together, these four areas, entity registration, registered agent appointment, tax registration, and licensing, form the foundation of good standing and ongoing regulatory success. Compliance requirements are rarely isolated, and addressing one often uncovers others. For instance, hiring an employee may require a state payroll tax ID, which in many states cannot be obtained without registering the legal entity with the Secretary of State. Similarly, applying for a license often demands proof of existing compliance, such as Secretary of State registration, tax registration, and other filings, depending on factors like the entity's name, ownership structure, or industry. Many organizations initially focus on resolving the issues immediately in front of them, unaware of the additional requirements that lie beneath the surface, much like the hidden mass of an iceberg. A disconnected approach can create inefficiencies and increase risk, highlighting the need for integrated compliance management. To stay in good standing, organizations must maintain all of their Secretary of State, tax, and licensing obligations and must be prepared to develop or adopt a solution that supports these interconnected regulatory requirements. Let's take a quick moment to review some recent state level updates, starting with New Mexico. As of December 9th last year, New Mexico launched a new unified online filing system. All business transactions must now go through this new portal. And with this launch, the legacy corporations and business services system has been fully discontinued and is no longer available. For those who had prepaid balances in the old system, refunds were issued to the name and the address on file, as those funds were unable to carry over to the new platform. There are also a few changes to available services. Correspondent filings are no longer accepted, and currently expedited online filing options are unavailable with this new system. Moving on to Vermont. On December 16th of last year, the Vermont Secretary of State also transitioned to a new online filing system. To use this new portal, users must create a new account if they haven't already done so on or after that new launch date. These updates highlight the importance of staying on top of state system changes, especially as they impact how filings are submitted and processed. And now I promise this will be the last poll question, and we'll launch it. And the question is, where do you get updates on these kinds of changes? Regular proactive research, attorney, accountant, industry peers, magazines, or other industry publications. It looks like we have a lot of industry publications, 33%. A lot of you are doing regular proactive research. Give it a few more seconds here. About a quarter of you rely on an accountant, a few on industry peers, a few on attorneys, but the two highest, tied at 33%, are regular proactive research and industry publications. Appreciate everybody providing that answer. On average, government red tape only increases over time. Another key trend is the increasing proliferation of regulatory reporting requirements. A prime example is the new beneficial ownership information reporting requirements that were initially brought about by the Transparency Act that took effect last year. These regulations mandate organizations to disclose their significant ownership details to enhance transparency and accountability. This adds another layer of complexity to an already challenging landscape and reinforcing the need for proactive management. As of March 1st of last year, FinCEN announced an interim final rule that domestic reporting companies, otherwise known as businesses formed in the United States, were no longer required to file BOI reports. At the moment, only foreign reporting companies are required to file, but FinCEN continues to emphasize the importance of BOI reporting. We have a lot of information on this on our website and our blog, so feel free to review that whenever you're able. Next up, we'll take a look at a few drawbacks of taking do-it-yourself approach to complicated compliance tasks. Let's admit it, managing government paperwork isn't exactly a passion project for most people, but here's the thing, we love it at Harbor Compliance. Yes, we're those compliance nerds who get excited about filing deadlines and regulatory nuances, and we embrace it wholeheartedly. We know it's not for everyone, and that's okay. We're here to help everyone that can't stand the thought of doing another filing. Too often, this stuff will fall on the plate of an overworked admin or a team member who already has a full time job. It can be a little thankless and a lot tedious. But here's the good news, we're on your side, we're ready to partner with you to lighten the load, and we're ready to make the process more manageable and, dare we even say, enjoyable. And we handle the details so your team can get back to the work they actually care about. Accountants and attorneys are rock stars in their fields, whether it's navigating complex tax strategies or providing invaluable legal counsel. But let's face it, multi state compliance, that's not exactly their idea of a good time. They'll probably thank you for sparing them the headache of keeping up with regulatory technicalities and letting them focus on what they excel at. And for any accountants or attorneys joining us on today's webinar, first, thank you for being here. If you've ever dreamed of offloading those regulatory tasks to someone you trust, we'd love to chat. We specialize in the nitty gritty so you can stick to what you know best and enjoy the entire process a whole lot more. Procrastinating on compliance may not seem like a big deal until you're in the middle of a fire drill. These last minute scrambles also often occur at the worst times, like right before a major bid or an expansion opportunity. And if something slips through the cracks, the consequences can be severe. Falling out of good standing or facing licensing issues can disrupt operations entirely with costly delays. But it's not just the businesses at risk here. These crises take a toll on your team. The stress of constant firefighting, especially for employees who already wear too many hats, leads to burnout, frustration, and inefficiency. Proactive compliance management isn't just about avoiding business risks, it's about fostering a healthier, more sustainable work environment for your team. And now, the strategic partnership advantage. Harbor Compliance delivers unmatched expertise in multi-state compliance. From purpose-built technology to extensive requirements data and proven multi-state expertise, we ensure your compliance needs are handled seamlessly. Through our strategic partnerships with accountants and attorneys, we provide a comprehensive strategy for your organization. By partnering with compliance experts, your organization can avoid a last-minute crisis, maintain smooth operations, and ensure uninterrupted growth. Imagine being able to hire that person candidate in any state without hesitation, Confidently bid on projects across jurisdictions, knowing 100% that you'll meet all requirements, and expand your product offering into new markets without fear of tax implications. A strategic approach to compliance is not just about avoiding penalties, it's about creating a stable foundation that empowers your business to say yes to opportunities the very moment they arise. When compliance is handled proactively, you are free to focus on what matters most, and that is growing your business. Now we'd like to open the floor for your questions. Please use the Q&A feature to share any queries, and we'll address as many as time permits. If you'd like to learn more about how we can work together or support your organization, please get in touch. As I mentioned at the start of the presentation, today's session is eligible for continuing education credit through Earmark. You can use the QR code on your screen now to download the Earmark app, and after the session concludes, we'll email out a 5-question quiz. Once you complete that quiz, you'll receive your CPE certificate. All right, so any questions? Feel free to use the question and answer section to ask. So Heather Rafter asks, we just hired one employee in Arizona, but otherwise do not do business in that state. Our tax advisors say that we do not need to register in Arizona other than establishing payroll accounts. Do we agree? The tricky thing about the Secretary of State registration is that what constitutes the need for registering within the Secretary of State is doing business within a state. Now, that is a gray area that varies from state to state. While having an employee that resides in that state typically or oftentimes triggers that need to require with the Secretary of State, it may not always be the case. I know a lot of our clients will opt to just take care of those Secretary of State registrations if it does fall into a gray area or if they're unsure, just to avoid any potential issues arising in the future. But ultimately, that's a determination for you to make. Listen to, the experts that you have on your team, and go from there. It really is kind of dependent on state and the nature. It's a little bit of a tricky question. James says that he is a management consultant, LLC S Corp in Florida. You manage 3 employees, all family members. The rest are 1099s. Moving to South Carolina, which will now be considered the HQ. We work from home office or at client site. One employee will remain in Florida. So if it sounds like there would need to be a presence in South Carolina, whether that is foreign qualifying the Florida entity in South Carolina or redomesticating the Florida entity to make South Carolina the home state. There's additional considerations that go into that. The domestication process, which is moving your domicile or home state to another state, is pretty lengthy and complicated from what I understand. Um, but ultimately, we would want to learn a little bit more about your current situation. You can send me an email after the call and we can discuss a little bit further. But if you will be Working from both South Carolina and Florida, you're likely going to want to have a registration in each of those states. Lindsay asks, can we use your service for just having a registered agency in the state and file on your own? Yeah, absolutely. All of our services are offered a la carte. If you want to just utilize us for that registered agent service and you handle everything else, we can definitely facilitate that. And then if anything changes in the future, maybe you hit a quick expansion that's unexpected and you're in 10 states now and you want to offload everything to us, we'll make that adjustment. It's really up to you as far as, what you want us to do for you. Any other questions here before we head over to the last slide? Okay. To take the next step in streamlining your compliance process, you can consider scheduling a consultation or taking advantage of one of our free assessments. Our team is here to help you succeed. As you can see here, there is a QR code on your screen, and that is a direct link to get a free Harbor Compliance health score for your entities. Feel free to take advantage of that free service. And that is all I have. It was great to have all of you on the webinar today. We appreciate your time and have a great rest of your day.